Hello, fellow gamers. This is Tim, Samwise7, and I want to talk about Labyrinth Lord. Labyrinth Lord is an interesting game for me because I'm more of a modern gamer. I've really only played like a one-shot of old Dungeons and Dragons when I was a kid. I think my mother bought it for me, and we just basically destroyed it after I think a few sessions of it. I think it got thrown away eventually, but so I played old Dungeons and Dragons once. And then I kind of wandered off the beaten path and played some other games. But in discovering Labyrinth Lord again, I I basically found something that I enjoyed before and I forgot about. So it's almost like I had, old Dungeons and Dragons amnesia. And I played third edition, and I've said elsewhere in 33.5, and they kind of burnt me to a cinder. I really didn't enjoy them anymore, and for this game, it's kind of like a breath of fresh air because I got back the love I have of fantasy gaming, um, especially with Dungeons and Dragons. The game under Dungeons and Dragons title. So it's really nice. It's pretty cool to be able to sit down and read a nice rules light game. I guess you consider Labyrinth Lord pretty rules light at like 140 pages. Maybe rules medium. I don't know, but either way, I really enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to running a game. So I'm gonna do a little review here. It might go a little bit long. I don't know, but we'll see. So Labyrinth Lord, what is it? It's a new, very slightly revised edition of the basic and expert D&D box sets by Tom Moldvay, Steve Marsh, and David Cook, and they were first published in 1981. The author is Daniel Proctor of Goblinoid Games, and I'll put a link on the side. In my opinion, his version is even better as far as the writing, how it's laid out, and how it's organized than the originals, and I'm pretty impressed by that. I'm pretty impressed that I can download the game for free. There are hardcover and softcover games that you can download. You can also get I think it's from Lulu, but I'll put links for those. But it's kind of nice that it's very well written, it's more organized, and I actually like the changes that were made. For the purist out there, if you have your original games, they're going to be slightly different, but not very much at all. Most of the changes are made so that it isn't as close to the original game, because of the whole copyright thing. The stat modifiers, they go from +3 to -3. And higher stats give you a bonus to gaining XP if the stat is your prime requisite for your class. Hit points are pretty much the same way as in other D&D games. I think some of them are a little bit lower. And I'm going to use a little house rule in my campaign at max hit points at first level, just to try to keep them alive. But you can play it straight. You can play it, and you're probably going to have a kind of high mortality rate, but that's kind of like the old school feel, I think. Character classes in Labyrinth Lord, there's 7 of them. There's Cleric, Fighter, Magic User, Thief, Dwarf, Elf, and Halfling. And again, the modern gamer in me was like, races as classes? That's kind of strange. But having a race as a class kind of makes character generation a lot quicker. I had a little problem with the level limits for the race classes because the game kind of favors humans. But I'm going to use the D&D Rules Cyclopedia optional rules to take them to higher levels. You can also check out Dark Dungeons, which is a retro clone of the Rules Cyclopedia. It's in work right now. It's in the process of being made. But that'll give you some ideas for adding more rules and tweaks to the Labyrinth Lord core rules. Or just adding your own optional rules in. For those that want race and class separated, you should check out the Advanced Edition Companion, which brings first edition ideas into Labyrinth Lord. And for the classes themselves, the XP per level changes, and that's try to balance things out. I understand that the level limits also try to balance things out, but I just don't like them. So now, like any RPG, tweak and modify the rules to yourself, to however you like to play, and that's definitely what I do. So let's see here. All right, I still got some time left. Each of the races Each of the race classes has their own feel, and it'd be very easy to kind of tweak them and add things in. As far as like the classes themselves, I had a little issue with the halfling XP levels. I know they're like that because of their bonus to their armor class. But I threw in some thief skills just to kind of balance things out, at least from just in my opinion, I guess. But it's pretty easy to throw in your own rules and tweak things. Alignment is a little bit different. There's only 3. There's law, neutral, and chaos. So there's no evil or good, which is a little bit different, but that wouldn't be very hard to throw into the game. I think the Advanced Edition companion does that. There's also alignment languages, but the modern gamer in me doesn't like that at all, so I'm just going to ignore those. I just don't see the point. Weapons have variable damage, but you can also use just the straight all weapons deal 1d6 rule if you want to do that. Some of the costs have been increased for the game from its its source material. But I think that's a good thing. It kind of stretches out the early game, and I like the early game more so than the high level game. Spells are pretty standard using Vancian magic, but there's interesting things in each one. You have to read each spell as you're casting it. Unlike games using like AD&D, LL spells do not use material components or variable casting times. Every spell requires just words and gestures, and it's completed during the spellcaster's initiative phase. So that's important if you're used to those games. Let's see. There are a lot more uses of 1d6 in this system, and it's kind of quirky and fun, in my opinion. I like that everyone can spot traps, for instance. I think it's on a 1 on a 1d6. There's also retainers in the game, and this is kind of a weird idea for me as more of a modern gamer, but I kind of like the feel of it. I kind of like just like I said, a lot of the things in the old school games I'm getting used to, and I can kind of see where they're going with it. And they definitely bring a different feel for gaming. And for me, that was so burned out on 3rd edition and 3.5, it's a nice change. But I like that the retainers have like a morale roll. They're not just cannon fodder. And they won't just run to their deaths because you told them to. Because if you're paying them, they have to be alive to get that money. So that's kind of interesting. All the monsters have an XP listed, but there's also an XP chart to help figure out tougher versions of the monsters in the book. Or if you want to make your own twisted abominations, it'll kind of help you out there. And there are some other monsters, especially on some of the old school blogs. And what's kind of nice is there's kind of a explosion of different monsters and stuff online. So you can get like Dragon's Foot and look around and find all kinds of interesting blogs that bring more to the game. My biggest surprise and probably my biggest delight was the initiative system. Each side rolls 1d6 every round, and then all of that one side goes. I think this makes initiative very easy and can allow one side of the battle to effectively have 2 turns in a row. I think it is a simple and quick system and shows the variability and chaos of combat. That just kind of blew me away. I was really kind of impressed with that. I forgot about that initiative system. I'm so used to tracking everybody's initiative and order, and I'm holding my actions, so now this order goes down a little bit, and I have to remember that this guy's not. More modern initiative systems kind of get confusing, and I don't know. After reading this one, I just think it's a lot easier. It's like, okay, players, what are all you going to do? Because you're first. So then they all discuss, and then there's a declaration phase, but I just like the way it works. I'm kind of excited to see how it's going to be in play. The combat sequence is a bit strange for me from more modern games, but again, it's just something you have to get used to. Things like missile attacks, spells, and melee all have their own phase, as well as movement. And to figure out what your attack numbers are, go to page 60. They're on a big chart. I was a little unsure why they weren't right with the classes, but no, that's where they are. Saving throws are by class, and they all vary a little bit from one another, and those are on page 55. And I kind of like that the dwarves and halflings are kind of tough as far as saving throws go. But that's pretty much this first part, and I will continue on with the next.